Msp Waves Radio. I am your host, Agrode, currently witness number 8 on the Steem Blockchain. Totally stoked to have my fellow witnesses and Andrarchy here today, as well as a fantastic audience. Thank you for spending some of your Saturday morning here with us. The format for today's show, this is a Steem witness panel or a Steem witness forum. So this is a chance for the witnesses to sort of talk to one another, talk about some of what we're doing, some of the projects that we're working on. I think some future planning for after March is actually really critical for all of us, so I like to keep bringing that up and see what people think there. And I don't know, the format for the show, when we're lucky to have Andrarchy, who's the director of content for Steem It Inc. Some of you, this is a Minnow support project, and there's a lot of Minnows that may not know the difference here. So you have Steem It, which is a development company that is led by Ned. You have Steem, which is a blockchain, which is public and sort of an open source thing that we're all co-owners of, if you have even just the smallest hint of Steam power. And then lastly, you have steemit.com, which is one of many different applications to go view and interact with that blockchain data. So I like to go put those kind of words out there so that people know how to have a good discussion about this. But yeah, so today we're going to go have Andrarchy. We can start with Andrarchy and there's been a lot of updates. I mean, you guys have been working your tails off to go get some stuff live out to the Steem world and the crypto universe. So I'm pretty excited to hear some of what you want to talk about today. And so we're going to start with that for maybe 30 to 45 minutes. The other witnesses are certainly welcome to ask questions of Andrarchy as we're going. I tend to monopolize this, but you guys are certainly welcome to ask whatever you'd like. And then finally, the last piece of this is, once we're done talking to Andrarchy, he oftentimes has to go and sort of live his life when he's not tied to the Steem chain. So we like to kind of like just have a discussion of just the witnesses, and the audience is willing to, if you guys want, you can toss questions at us in chat and we'll do our best to follow along there. But that's the format for the show today. It normally just has questions like, who are you? What are you working on? What's the most important stuff? What's the stuff that's not going well? And then what do we see with the crystal ball? Those are my sort of generic questions, and you're certainly welcome to ignore them. I try to organize this, but you know, the witnesses get to say and do whatever they want. So if you'd like to branch beyond the question that I'm asking and say, well, you know what, Agro, what we really ought to talk about is this, feel free, go nuts, and ignore any of the questions or thoughts that I'm sending your way. So that's the format for the show. I'm so stoked you're all here. And Andrarchy, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. How are things?
Things are going great. Things are going well. Thanks for that great introduction.
Well, I'm stoked to have you here, and I'm stoked, you know, frankly, I'm just really excited by the changes that we've been seeing in terms of how much communication is happening on the Steem It side, like just the number of updates that are coming, and even the tone and text of the format. Like, I think it's all going really well, and they seem to be really well received, not just by me, but by you know, the audience as a whole. And I know that you have your hand in that cookie jar quite a bit, so congratulations, and thank you for doing such a good job to communicate what Steem It is doing.
Well, thanks a lot for saying that. Yeah, we have done a lot of work on our communications. I mean, part of what makes me really proud about it is that we've had these conversations over the course of, you know, the last year or two, where I came on this show, and so where I said we were doing this or that, and we were building our systems out, and things were coming, and communications would be coming. So it's really nice to see all that stuff fruition. I think the truth is that I think it works. I think that that the reception has been really positive. We're all very excited about how people are receiving it. But it only works because I've spent the last 2 years inside the team getting to know all of the engineers. I think I really view my job as watching what the engineers are doing, understanding what all of the teams are doing, and how all of those efforts come together. And it really takes time. And it's not about that isn't true or that doesn't reflect the genuine beliefs of what the engineers feel that they're building and why they show up to work every day. Like, these guys have been working pretty much nonstop for the last month, hard all the time. But as the listeners might have seen or heard, last night we finally announced the release of a testnet.
Yeah, and I'm
leading up to Hard Fork 20.
Yeah, their days aren't going to get any easier for the next month or so.
I mean, these guys, they're really superheroes. I mean, I think I work a lot, but the truth is I don't work as much as they do, because I can always take a break. I can always go and do something the world isn't going to end. But people like Vanderberg, Theoretical, Justin W., just to Roadscape, just to name a few. I mean, our team has grown. Another thing we've talked about was the growth of the company, and that has continued. In fact, now it's finally slowing, but in the last 6 months, we probably doubled again. And these people put in. They don't have to. They do it because they believe in what they're doing and they believe in what we're building. And so I'm in the privileged position of getting to tell that story. And sometimes I forget that if I don't do it, it's not going to get told and people aren't going to hear and people aren't going to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's been a nice privilege over the course of the last few, as the organization has grown and matured from like a ragtag group of blockchain,
savants.
What's that?
Savants.
Savants. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I talk about, I've been trying to do like more panels and stuff lately, and I really believe that the projects that are going to continue to survive into the future, which I believe is the only metric that matters, is survivability, are the ones that are comprised of true blockchain natives. It's the teams where you have blockchain natives, but not only blockchain natives. You have to have marketing. You have to have entrepreneurship. And then, of course, you have to have the engineers. But all of them have to have been immersed in this culture and in this technology for years and years and years. And it's not something you can plan.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. You just got to get that, and everything's going to work out great.
Yeah, exactly. And so when people talk about things like competition, which everybody in our organization feels the same way about competition, which is we welcome all open source code into the space because we can use it. And it's not an afraid thing. With respect to being able to outpace projects that are perceived as competition, that's what makes us, I think, so confident, is that, you said that sarcastically. It's like, that's a 1 in a million shot to get all of those ingredients together. And it wasn't planned even in our case.
It's super painful. I mean, like trying to get, I agree with what you're saying. Like the things that are part of this community are so hard to find and piece together. And not only that, but you need some money, some investors, you need some people that want to be merchants on here, you need developers, you need like consumers, you need to get all of those people in here. And building a marketplace for all of these things is actually quite challenging. And then what's even going to be harder is like somebody else is going to try to do what Steem wants to do. Okay, well now you not only have to figure out a way to copy all the things and all the ingredients that are here, but also compete with the fully functional, currently running version that has a community and all these people with vested interest. I think the next generation are people that build something even with a minor technological edge are going to have quite a challenge moving into the same space.
Absolutely. I couldn't have put it better myself. I think that whenever I see projects coming into the space that act like technology is the thing that matters, and like all they have to do is write a better white paper that's theoretically somehow more elegant than ours. Meanwhile, I've yet to see a more elegant, design. Like that barely matters at all. It's the community, it's the ecosystem, and it's not like, as well as anybody, that Steem as it is now is very, very different than Steem as it was designed at the beginning. It's an evolved thing. It's been improved, and these guys have been working their butts off for 2 years to continue making it better. And we've alluded to the idea of Steem being an application-specific blockchain. It's something that I hope to share more information about in the future. But essentially, one of the key value propositions of being application-specific is that what it means is that, okay, so you come out and you have some better design. You solve a piece of the puzzle better than we do. Do you think we're not looking at EOS's repo? Of course we are. These guys were intimately involved with Dan for years. We love blockchain. We're looking at the Bitcoin repos. We're looking at the EOS repos. We're looking at the Ethereum repos. This isn't religion. This isn't personal. This is about making a great product. And so, but the beauty of application specific is we know exactly which problems we're trying to solve. And there isn't this unlimited potential that you have with general purpose blockchains, where you're trying to optimize the protocol for flexibility, whereas we're trying to optimize specific aspects of the protocol for specific problems. So the real power of application specificity, and if people want to look into this, they can look into ASIC miners, application specific integrated circuits, and the real fundamental benefit of being application specific is about limitation and focus. When you have a limited set of problems that you're trying to solve, it enables you to focus intensely on solving those problems, take whatever solutions are out there, integrate them into your solution, and make it better over time, which isn't something that general purpose have to spread out. They have to do more experimentation because they face challenges sooner. So for example, we don't need to think about sharding now because of our approach. Reasons why we don't need to think about sharding now. But the real reason is the application specificity. So that means we can sit back and wait until Ethereum perfects sharding, perfects Casper, and see how it goes, and then integrate it if it makes sense for us. But we've got plenty of runway to sit back and wait because of that application specificity. So, with that, I'd be happy. We released the testnet last night. We released dates for the release of the Smart Media Tokens protocol. Our engineers worked their butts off, not just on the protocol, but on generating that estimate. They put a lot of work and sacrificed a lot of time to map out the entire roadmap, to learn how to forecast accurately, which we tested with the release of things like HiveMind 1.0 and AppBase. And they worked their butts off to generate those estimates so that we could be confident that we could deliver SMTs. And so like now it's pretty much full steam ahead on executing on the things that we've discussed. The communications are going to continue. We're going to continue to dive deeper into what we're doing. But I'd be happy to open up the forum to the amazing witnesses and developers that you have in here, and they can talk about what they want. If they have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
So what is the main talk at Steem about? Like, what are you guys the most stoked about of all of the, you've put out a bunch between HiveMind, AppBase, SMTs, and Velocity. What are you guys spending most of the water cooler time discussing?
Good question. I think a lot of people don't understand about the blockchain space. I mean, I know you do actually, but is how connected everything is, which makes it really hard to focus about any one particular thing. Like, You know, there's excitement and there's priority. People are excited about hard fork 20. Well, yes, in the sense that once we turned our attention to it, we were able to PRs consistently and deliver. I think what we're most excited about is our organization as a community, as a company, and our ability to make goals, organize our priorities, and execute on them. So like hard fork 20 is really critical for T's. So there's a lot of talk about hard fork 20, about getting it ready. I mean, talk and work, it's kind of difficult to parse between the two. You know, a lot of our attention is going to hard fork 20. A lot of these things are prerequisites. So we can only allocate, you know, we really need to allocate a lot of resources to hard fork 20 before we can shift them to SMTs. Now, at the same time, there's always development going on any one of these projects. Because as I said, it's this interconnected thing where you're developing SMTs and then you realize how AppBase plays in and how hard fork 20 plays in. And, you know, if something else comes up, then you got to integrate that too. I mean, I think at this point we've really figured everything out. But like over the course of the last year has been doing that math of being like, okay, well, we know we want SMTs. We know the community wants SMTs. We know we can get consensus around SMTs. And so what do we need to do to get that done? And in the process, you start realizing, you know, the nature of your scalability concerns, because scalability isn't like gravity. It's not this thing you can just that has one solution. It's it's growth. Scalability is just a synonym for rapid growth, and growth manifests itself in all of these, you know, interesting ways. Like, is growth about account creation or token creation? Because with SMTs, what we're going to be doing is inviting, you know, to more token transactions onto the chain than there are now. So, you know, that's a whole different growth challenge than merely adding accounts. So as far as excitement, I mean, right now it's been testnet, and honestly, up until just a couple of days ago, up until yesterday, you know, I was drafting the communication about the testnets, and I was talking to Relativity Boy, the guy, the project owner for the testnet. And I'm talking to him, and I see he's like really, really excited about the testnet. And I kind of, pardon my ignorance here, but I thought that the testnet was only about hard fork 20 and giving basically witnesses and anybody else who's interested in testing out hard fork 20 the tools they need to try to break it. And I just see how excited it is, and he was like, no, it's not just about hard fork 20. This is going to be a hugely useful tool just for Steem developers going forward, and we're just going to continue making it better and better over time. And it's a long time coming. And so I think that you know, right now it's been the testnet, and it's probably going to be for the next couple of weeks, because from what I understand, you know, there's plenty of work to do to improve it. It's basically an MVP now. Very, very useful. A 0 to 1 improvement with respect to utility, but there's a whole lot of ways they want to make it better. So
I can pause for a second.
I mean, obviously SMTs, but you know, these guys are all business. It's all about executing on our priorities, and why deeper into the future as opposed to wider, because it's really all going to be about executing on hard fork 20, executing on the smart media tokens protocol, executing on HiveMind, and then providing Steemians with the world-class user interface that they deserve, that shows off the power of Steem combined with the power of HiveMind and smart media tokens. I mean, I think that's what we're most excited about, is the eventual integration of those three things: smart media tokens, HiveMind, and a world-class user interface.
I want to pause. Are there other witnesses that want to toss a question at Anjarki? Otherwise, I'm happy to keep poking him for another 15 minutes here. Hearing none. All right. So, what's the word on the street for the first kind of 24 hours here of the test net? Has that been okay? Did it crash immediately? Did it go smoothly? What's the hubbub?
Honestly, it's so quiet that I gotta assume it's probably working great. It definitely, there were obviously countless on the road towards release. So they only released it when they were really confident that that it would, meet the demands of people and it wouldn't crash and all that stuff. So it seems to be pretty clear. I mean, the developers are probably just very deep inside of a coma right now because everybody was working around the clock and working late even last night. So seems pretty good.
Okay. So when it comes to the hard fork 20 velocity, we have these kind of discount account creation tokens. What's that going to look like for me as a user? I mean, I understand that we're going to go create tokens. Tokens will somehow be distributed, and then accounts can be created. What's that going to look like for a standard user that's out there and just is like, I want to make myself, my friend, or some other business or whatever new accounts? Does it just what's that interface look like, or how will I know if I have the discount account creation tokens?
Those are good questions, and I don't think I have really good answers for you right now. This is a very big That's a great question, though. Okay. And this is
I might be able to take that because I've been following a lot of the GitHub issues.
Awesome, thank you, Tim. Help us out.
So for the average user, probably not much is going to change. I think the discounted account creation tokens are a lot more for the account creation services, like a non-Steem block trades, Steem it through their faucet. Basically, the discounted accounts are going to allow account creation services to create accounts without having to pay any Steem or Steem power, just by using their resource credits, which are kind of the equivalent of bandwidth once hard fork 20 takes place. So for the majority of users, if they're going to want to create an account, Steem Connect is still going to remain the way to do that. Is able to create delegated accounts. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Are they? Will I see like account creation tokens come in or out of my account, or in and out of the Steemit account? Will I be able to view that on any part of the site?
So the term discount account creation token is a little confusing in that it's not something that can be traded. The purpose of the discount account creation tokens are basically to track how many available discounted accounts are available.
So if Steemit's using none of them and they have a lot of stake, so they're going to pile them up, will they default to busy? Will they default to a non-Steem?
So as an account creator, you basically have to choose whether you're going to use resource credits or whether you're going to burn Steem. And if you use resource credits, the cost is based on the supply and demand of how many other account creators are trying to acquire those tokens.
Is there anywhere on the front end to track that? Will that live on like steamdb.com?
Well, okay, so it should be exposed through APIs, similar to a lot of the other blockchain data. Whether Jesta is going to update SteamDB or Roadscape's going to update SteamD, that's a question for the individual UIs.
But it's just going to be an API call at the end of the day?
Well, the blockchain is going to support the API calls. How user interfaces use those APIs to display data and allow users to do things is entirely up to the individual UIs. Um, I can, since Steemit.com does not really give users a current way to create accounts, I don't think that they're planning to integrate something where, like, me as an average user can go in and create an account. But there's always Steem Connect for that.
Okay, so that seems like it's a nice faucet for the sort of larger platforms. I mean, it could something like a DTube and DLive, they could start doing account creation pretty easily too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it boils down to is if you're a large stakeholder with a significant amount of Steam power and you're interested in using your resource credits to create accounts, that there's a path available now to do that.
I guess I'm not clear. Can I use resource credits for something other than account creation?
Yeah. So actually the new bandwidth after hard fork 20, so everything that you do that would cost bandwidth under the current hard fork is now going to cost resource credits under the new hard fork.
So I could either make 8 million posts, or I could go bring like a whole bunch of new users online, and those will cost me the same sort of behind the scenes tokens.
Correct.
And that will include upvoting, posting, transactions, account creation. Am I missing anything?
Nope. I mean, basically everything that costs bandwidth today, which is literally any transaction on the blockchain other than reading data, is now going to cost resource credits.
Well, I'm very excited to see how that's going to work. Thank you, Tim, for the explanation. I guess I hadn't fully linked that the resource credit, which is a new bandwidth, was actually also the account creation or the discount account creation token as well. That part I hadn't figured that out yet. But that was
yeah. So to get in the weeds a little bit, there is a term called account creation token, which is something that's actually tracked on the blockchain. But basically you use resource credits to buy a discounted account. And the account creation tokens are actually a general pool that just tracks how many available discounted accounts there are. So from the witness perspective, we get to say how many discounted accounts are created each day and what the maximum number is. So just for easy number's sake, let's say we say 1,000 new discounted accounts can be created each day, and there's a maximum of 5,000. And just for simplicity's sake, let's say that when Hard Fork 20 first launches, no one's creating discounted accounts for the first week because everyone's still kind of writing their code. So if you fast forward a week, we've got 5,000 discounted accounts that are available to be created because no one's used up any accounts yet.
You just cut out.
With their resource credits.
You just cut out, Tim. Will you try that one more time?
Can you hear now?
Yeah, it's after you said we have 5,000 in the bank, and then.
Okay, so after there's 5,000 in the bank, let's say a non-Steem comes along and they create the first discounted account. So a non-Steem uses their Steem Power resource credits, and they create an account without having to burn any Steem. It now goes down to 4,999 discounted accounts. And the discounted account creation tokens are what are keeping track of that 4,999 that are left.
So when the 5,000 in the bank are used up, and let's say another day goes by and we used up another 1,000 there, so now we're at 0, you still create accounts just through normal, hey, let me go create an account with 3 Steem on it, correct?
Yeah, although that is correct. So you can create as many accounts as you want through the normal account creation process, although a key distinction is that now it's burning Steem instead of adding it as Steem Power.
Oh, I didn't catch that either. Man, these are kind of subtle changes. Thank you for explaining that. So it's Yeah, I thought I could still just create it with 3 Steem on, but now it's, nope, it's, I have to kill the 3 Steem to get it.
That is correct. So one thing, there's a great blog post by Steem at Blog a couple weeks ago that goes through all the different changes, and that's where a lot of this information is contained. So if anyone hasn't read that yet, I would encourage them.
Yeah, I read it twice, and I still don't. I clearly didn't get the subtleties or
there's
aspects.
a lot of information in there. So yeah, it's definitely easy to overlook things. But just one other thing to add too. So if I create a brand new account, let's say I create an account for you and I burn 3 of my Steem, you're not going to have any Steem power in your account, but the blockchain is going to give you a minimum account usability where even though you have 0 Steem power in your account, it's going to give you 3 Steem power worth of resource credits because that 3 Steem was burned in order to create your account. So you actually are still going to get the bandwidth or the resource credits for that Steem that was burned, but you can't power down that Steem power. It doesn't actually exist. And when you're voting for witnesses, it's not giving you 3 Steem power to vote with.
All right. Those are some good changes. I know Anjarki likes to take off after his section, so I want to see if there are any questions from either from the audience or primarily from the other witnesses that are on the show. If you guys have anything that you'd like to ask of Anjarki and where Steem's at, I'd be very interested in hearing from you guys. I must have picked the shyest bunch of...
Well, I can just chime in while we're waiting for people to think of questions or something. That, you know, you asked... Tim's answers were great. And, you know, you asked about kind of user interface elements related to the changes coming with Hard Fork 20. And as you can see, it really encompasses a pretty fundamental shift in how the blockchain operates. So priority numero uno is definitely focusing on getting Hard Fork 20 right and making sure that, you know, that goes off without a hitch, you know, developing things like the testnet, because really what we're doing is that as the most sophisticated developers in the space will be glad to tell you, the bandwidth algorithm that was in place was really just good enough. It wasn't great. It wasn't ideal for regulating the amount of resources being consumed by the network. And it was fine. It was good enough for the time because, you know, when you're trying to get something off the ground, when you're trying to, you know, just start growing rapidly, you know, that's fine. You can do with good enough. But over time, you know, as growth really started to skyrocket, and as we started having to think not about, you know, 5 months from now, but 5 years from now, and things like SMTs and things like sustainable account creation, what we realized is that we really needed to improve the resource allocation calculations that are done by the blockchain, and that's really what resource credits are about. It's about replacing the bandwidth system with a system that more accurately reflects the amount of resources that are being consumed by the network, and more accurately allocates resources based on that information, and doing it in a way, and this is actually the hard part that people might not see, but you got to do that in a way that doesn't itself contribute to the load on the network. So it's actually incredibly computationally intensive to determine how much resources the network is consuming. So you have to come up with accurate proxies, and then you have to develop a mechanism which takes the information coming from those proxies and then allocates the resources. And so resource credits are really an internal market that will govern the consumption of resources by all the users, and anything that's going to consume resources is eventually going to come down to resource credits. That's why account creation will require resource credits, just like it required bandwidth. That's why upvoting, downvoting, posting, commenting, it'll all come back to resource credits. And so resource credits promise to be more efficient and more scalable, more sustainable, but it'll also be a little bit more uncertain because it'll be more market driven. And so that's the toss up. It's really, our priority right now is making sure that this transition it goes smoothly for everybody and doesn't interfere with the user experience. And in fact, it is intended to improve the user experience for Steemians and to enable that user experience to remain high quality from 1 million accounts up to 100 million accounts.
So speaking of that, Gandalf asked the question, are you prepared to deal with account recoveries when something bad happens? So now if we're gonna onboard and start our, Eternal September, and we're gonna have, Steem it is prepared. All right, Gandalf is changing his question. That's a question for other third parties. So I guess my question still stands. Do you guys feel like you're ready for an onboarding of lots of people that may not actually have a crypto background? And then I guess the second question is, what are we going to do if the, hopefully we get the problem where people get overwhelmed. Like a lot of these accounts are being created by new crypto users. That's going to form a challenge. Is Steem it ready for lots of new users to enter this space?
Well, in a sense, being ready for a particular thing right now, it's about lining up all of the pieces so that by the time an issue, it's the puzzle, the puzzle is complete. We're a startup. This is a rapidly growing new thing. We have an order of magnitude fewer employees and resources than our established competitors, right? So Facebook has the benefit of being able to say, we allocated $1 billion to this. Everything has these huge costs. When you're a rapidly growing startup in a rapidly evolving space, it's not about solving particular problems a year ahead. In fact, while it might not sound ideal, the goal is having solutions in place the moment the problem rears its head. And so the problem with that is sometimes the problem comes earlier than you think, and sometimes it comes later than you think. So what I would say is that we're doing our best internally to line up all those pieces so that as these issues come up, we'll have things in place. And then the second thing we're doing is making sure that we're developing the resources that will enable other developers in the space to help to do the same thing so that these processes and these solutions are more decentralized. We're thinking about all of these things, and we're doing our best to line up all of these solutions and push them along as far as we can, solve the problems we can solve, and then give other people the tools they need to solve the problems that aren't necessarily as high a priority for us as they might be for the ecosystem as a whole. I know that's not a very satisfying answer, but I think it's a very accurate example.
Well, I like Grayland's comment of Bitcoin offers no account recovery whatsoever, so we're light years ahead of competition. To me, the detail is always what's the delta. It's not what do you have, it's what do you have compared to the other people that you're competing against. So
that's a very good. I think that's the right perspective to have on it. It's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Now, that being said, we have to maintain that value proposition, and we have to ensure that if we have account recovery, that it actually works. But you're 100% right. It's the delta that matters. And on so many areas, we have such a big delta.
All right. So
over
I want to offer a last chance to Dracos, Carl, and Tim. If you guys have questions for Andrarchy, now's the time. And then I want to go switch over to just the witness forum. Of course, Andrarchy, you're welcome to stick around, but I want to change the focus from what is Steemit doing to what are witnesses doing and what are witnesses thinking about. So I will ask my shy and quiet witness team here. Do you guys have any last question that you would want to ask to Andrarchy before we switch over to hearing about what you guys are up to?
I have a question, and this is Carl Nash speaking. I'm a witness representative for the Curie community witness. This might be a question for Andrarchy or possibly for Tim or somebody else who's been following along on the GitHub. One of the upcoming changes under Hard Fork 20 that we at Curie have really been looking at is the changes to the dust vote threshold. And basically every vote will be shifted down a small amount. So previously when a vote was too small, that it wouldn't actually, it was below what was called the dust threshold, that vote just wouldn't be posted to the blockchain. Under the new change, a vote that is below that dust threshold will still be posted to the blockchain and take up resource credits. So you can, so for one perspective, that's really good for small accounts because you can keep voting even if you previously would not have been able to. So you won't be artificially limited in your ability to vote. But it also means one of the ways that one of the things that happened when this was implemented is that just making it so that the smallest accounts could still vote even if their vote doesn't have any impact. Every vote is shifted down by a very small portion, and so that'll impact accounts like Curie who cast a lot of small votes and then have trailing accounts that trail their vote with a percentage. A lot of the trailing votes that come in underneath our smaller votes will be shifted down and we'll lose a significant portion of the value of the vote depending on what the exact percentages are. And my question is, if a vote is shifted down and say, I believe it's 1.2 SP is the effective shift down, but whatever that shift is, if a vote is shifted down, does it still take up the same amount of vote power that it would have taken, even though it is now actually yielding fewer R shares? Or does the vote power itself also that it takes also get shifted down? So that's my question.
Yeah, so I'll just use round numbers. So if the shift is 1 Steem power, and you vote with a percent that would base voting power, it's going to cost you 2 voting mana, but the vote will mana worth of power.
Tim, you broke up during all of that, which made it extremely confusing to follow. Can you try one more time, Tim?
Yeah, is it okay right now?
You are still cutting in and out, but I can. Yeah, I don't know. Let's give this a shot.
Can you guys hear now?
You're still kind of cutting in and out, Tim, but you should just give it a shot for the explanation. We may have lost Tim. All right. Well, that's Carl. That's a pretty technical question for Andrarchy. So oftentimes Andrarchy likes to go answer sort of more of like the spiritual direction of Steemit, the cultural direction, the what are they working on, what are priorities?
It's a very nice way of saying I'm too stupid to be able to answer that question, which is true. I don't have the answer, and thankfully Tim provided it in the chat.
Yeah, we got there. Look, the witnesses have a pretty stellar team of nerds that are on here that can help us out whenever we have those kinds of questions. All right. I think I might have seen one other question that somebody else wanted to go ask to Andrarchy. Do I have one last one before I switch the focus here?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask to Andrarchy if he's available for hire, because I know no one else that is as good as him in doing communication for sure.
Aww.
Thank you. Was that Alir?
That was Alir. That was really sweet.
Praise. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, as I like to tell people, there's there's still no other company I'd rather work for than the one I do now. It's and I probably wouldn't be as good at it because I really do believe in what we're doing and how we make our decisions and our path forward, because I really want to tokenize the internet. I want to give everybody the ability to earn stake in the products and services that they use. I don't think there's any reason why, if you add value to something, you can't earn a stake in it. And I still see us as the only one doing anything serious to address that problem. And all of this technical stuff is really just a means to that end, at least for me, and I think for most of the team too. So it's a real privilege to work for this company and to work for this community, because at the end of the day, we're all stakeholders in the same protocol. We're all working for the Steem blockchain. We're all trying to work together to figure out how to make this thing better. And the intelligent people who support the blockchain are just as important as the intelligent people who criticize and attack and hack. Like, those people are just as valuable, because they make sure that, if something's broken, that it gets fixed. And that's the important part that so many other platforms are missing, is a healthy ecosystem of intelligent, passionate people of all types and all shapes and sizes doing their part to make this protocol better using their specialized skill set. So
Sharky, I got a question for you. When you have, so you're saying, let's go tokenize the internet. This is somewhere between a softball question and a hardball question, but why would I do this through Steem? Why don't I just go? I can already create tokens on BitShares. I can already create smart contracts on Ethereum. And if I'm really looking for where all the money's at, it's going to be on like NASDAQ, or it's going to be on the New York Stock Exchange. Why the heck would I bother to go do it at this tiny 34th ranked Steem corner of the universe? What's so powerful about this place that will make it so that the tokens that we generate here are going to be worth the time and investment and holding and doing that through this interface? What's the magic that makes this a better experience than my other options?
That is a great question, and there are so many answers to it, and the truth is that there is no, one answer would be that by engaging with one another as a community, by Steemit engaging with the witnesses and engaging with the community and talking to developers and entrepreneurs, smart media tokens are what emerged out of that discourse and the consensus that emerged. And it's not, the reason why we're confident in our path is not because we're confident we know that it is what will work. It's because we know that it's what everybody agrees is the right path forward. And then everything else is theoretical, just like Steem was theoretical. And this is all just a grand experiment. Now, that being said, we do have philosophical and theoretical underpinnings that justify the paths that we take, one of which I referred to before, which is the application specificity angle. We are the only application-specific blockchain in the space right now. And what is it specific to is the question. And so it's specific to two things, really, though they tie into one another. It's specific to storing content, and it's specific to storing tokens that are autonomously distributed by community members. And what we've done over the last 2 years is really refine or continue to refine, and of course it'll never stop, and of course it's not perfect. We've refined these two systems and how they interplay with one another to really, become experts in how a hyper-efficient token can be used to align the incentives of community members. And so what we're doing with smart media tokens is taking all of that knowledge and giving anybody else, any other community, which really, what isn't a community? A business is a community, a nonprofit is a community, a charity is a community, a co-op is a community. And we're giving them the ability to create their own Steem-like token And because it's application specific, because all we have to worry about, we have limited issues. We are picking the problems that we believe, if you solve them, they can be utilized by the widest variety of people in the widest variety of ways. What you do when you're building an application specific thing is you pick the specific solutions that solve the widest array of problems. And so you get two benefits there. On the one hand, you get to focus on your solution. And then on the other hand, your customers, in this case, developers, entrepreneurs, they get a really great solution, and they might have to hack a thing or two together to make it ideal for their circumstances, but it works great and it scales. And so that's really why what we think gives us a competitive edge. Now, that is on top of things like the fact that we have an amazing community already in place, ready to adopt your application. We have a super fast blockchain already in the wild, operating, ready to handle your transactions. And if your transactions start pushing the limits of what we can do, we know the limited number of problems we need to solve in order to make the protocol better for doing that. We don't have a million Scud missiles coming at us. We have 3, we have 5. Whereas general purpose platforms, they literally have an infinite number of attacks coming at them, and they have to spread themselves out to solve them. So I think that is the best way of summarizing, our philosophy, our approach to addressing this issue. I mean, what you've already seen is that despite our position in CoinMarketCap, despite the fact that maybe as many people don't know about as should, our account growth continuing to grow. You see the number of applications coming online continuing to grow, and I think it's the tortoise versus the hare. I think that's the kind of approach we're taking, where slow and steady, solve real problems, give real tools, and the demand will come. And I think what we see with the huge demand by users and by developers, the proof is in the pudding. We haven't spent a 1/10 the amount of resources as somebody like Ethereum has on trying to get real applications launched on their platform. And yet we have an order of magnitude more applications that real people are using, that's the asterisk, that real people are using every day. And I think, that says something. And these problems that we're solving now are intended to set us up for the next wave of growth, where people start abandoning projects that are vaporware and start fleeing to value and utility.
Well, thank you very much, Anjarki. Stoked to have you here. Stoked to have you answer questions. I want to switch gears and just kind of let the witnesses talk about who they are and what they're working on and why they're working on it. And but I appreciate your thoughts. I'm stoked by the change in the amount and quality of the communication that's coming out of Steem, or Steem it, and I know that you've had a huge part to play in that. Thank you for that, and looking forward to seeing how this ecosystem continues to grow. And I guess I think that growth isn't linear. It is, you make quantum leaps along the way, and I'm pretty excited for the leaps that I think are coming over the next months and half year or so. Should be really exciting. So thank you, Anjarki. All right, so now let's go switch gears a little bit to the pure witness side of this thing. Anjarki, you're welcome to stick around and chime in as people are talking. You're free to go as you are, as you're always free to do things around here. This is a voluntary organization. I guess let's go start with Dracos. Dracos, do you want to talk a little bit? Let's just do a quick introduction, no more than a minute or two. Who are you? What do you do? What do you work on? And what's, I don't know, what's important to you? Dracos?
Hello, everyone. I'm a witness. I'm a developer. I'm a webmaster. Hello, Gandalf. I do a lot of things. I provide help support on the help channels. I code tools. Many things. I administer servers. Recently, I had the pleasure of managing the Minnow support project's RPC node, the public node, and it's been quite a good experience for me to learn new things and to find bugs in these things. I test stuff. I try to find bugs. I submit reports. If I can fix them, I submit pull requests. But that's what I do overall. Yeah, I'm a mouse pilot.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dracos. Alir, hopefully you can unmute yourself and just sort of tell us who you are, what you're working on, and what you think is important, or just stuff you want us to know in the next minute or two.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me here. So I'm the founder of Utopian.io. Utopian is an initiative rewarding open source contributions to the Steem blockchain and in general to any open source repository, public repository on GitHub. So what we are trying to do with Utopian is to empower the open source movement by creating the tools for them to get exposure and possibly to get funds via the Steem blockchain. Our journey started, I think, more or less 9 months ago. So we also run a witness. We are right now 23 in the rank, I think. And yeah, of course, I will welcome any question later on about what we are doing here. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Carl, do you want to go say a couple words about who you are and what Curie is?
Sure, and thanks for having me on again. This is Carl G. Nash. That's my Steem username, and I'm here representing the Curie community witness. Curie is just at C-U-R-I-E. And I'm going to just take a minute to go a little bit more in depth about what Curie does. The last few times I've been here, I've kind of just glossed over it because I assume that everyone knows what Curie is and what Curie does. But I've been reminded lately that there's a lot of people who have been on platform a long time who still don't understand Curie operations, and then new people might not have any clue in the first place. So the primary thing that Curie is an organization of curators, and Curie tries to add value to the Steem blockchain by keeping the brain in proof of brain. And the way we do this is by giving out a big upvote to people, and we don't ask for money for it. We don't ask for anybody to jump through any hoops. The team of curators goes out looking for great content that's original to Steem and submits it for review, and Curie reviewers, who are former Curie curators who performed well on some objective metrics over an extended period of time, Curie reviewers review the submissions from Curie curators, make sure there's no plagiarism, make sure that this is actually good content that's adding value to the Steem blockchain, and if the reviewer agrees, we give a big upvote. So that's the primary Curie operations, is the curator and reviewer operations, giving out these big upvotes. Curie also has a goal to build a community of curators and to empower curators. And if you're trying to make money as a curator on Steem blockchain, it's not going to be your highest ROI use of your vested Steem power. And so organizations like Curie, who actually come in and give a supplemental income to curators, are really doing a lot to incentivize curation on the platform. And so the way that works with Curie is curators receive a finder's fee for every approved post. Reviewers receive a fee for doing the review, and then we've capped those finder's fees and reviewers' fees at a percentage of the amount the author receives from the upvote to keep everything in balance. And then Curie also has a number of other operations that we do. We do direct curation, where a curator who has proven to be really good at this over a 6-month period can skip the curator-reviewer process and give out small Curie upvotes to posting without having to go through this process, which is of course a much more efficient way to do it. I myself am both a reviewer and a direct curator for Curie. And Curie also supports a number of communities, interest in regional specific communities. So there's a homesteading community we support with a vote trail, there's a music community, there's many regional communities. And So all of that and more you can learn about in our white paper, which is at curysteem.com. And so if you've got any questions about the way Curie operates, really the white paper is the best way to get the in-depth answers. So I encourage you to visit curysteem.com and read the white paper. Thanks.
Rock on. Let's see if we can hear okay from Tim. Let me see. Tim, do you want to give a shot at just introducing yourself here? You've been some of you might not know that he's been answering some questions along the way. So some of the more technical answers already just on the show have come from Tim. Tim, can you say hi and introduce yourself? It's possible that he can't hear us. He says we lost sound. Can anybody else say hello in here? Are other of the witnesses, Dracos, Alir, can you say hello? I think they can hear me in the audience. Audience, can you go put in Steem Monsters into chat if you can actually hear? Yeah, the other witnesses can't hear me. Oops. Let me try. Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me now?
That's better.
All right. Sorry about that. Very odd. All right, so I'm back now. So Tim, are you there? It would be your turn, and we'd love to have you kind of chime in with who you are and exactly what it is that you're doing.
Was that me? Sorry, you cut out.
Yeah, Tim, if you could just give yourself a quick introduction.
Sure. So I'm out in the boonies right now, kind of in farm town, so I don't have the best internet connection. I apologize if my voice isn't coming through clearly. I'm Tim Cliff. I'm one of the witnesses. There's actually just two things I want to talk about here today. The first is a website that I launched a couple weeks ago called steameconomy.com. And basically it's a project to collect all the businesses that are accepting Steem or Steem dollars as a form of payment, so that users who are looking to spend the money that they make on the site with businesses that accept Steem, they can visit that website and basically get a directory of all the businesses that are accepting Steem and Steem dollars. And the other project that I want to talk about, which I'll probably go more into after the introduction, is what I'm calling Steem Blast. And basically we're going to organize one day in about a week or so where everyone is going to kind of take to the streets and promote Steem through all their social media accounts, and basically just try to generate a huge amount of buzz about the platform in the world outside of Steem, so that potential investors basically kind of see all the activity that's going on and wonder, hey, what's going on with Steem, and hopefully take another look at our project.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm Agrod. I founded the Minnow Support Project. It's a 20,000 person Discord group. It houses, you can see a bunch of the witnesses. This is like a publicly run group. We're here to go help upvote and curate new members on the platform. Within that, I founded Msp Waves. Msp Waves is a radio station that you're listening to now as a way to go help share the content that we're doing and the content that we put together with others. And then the most recent one that I've done is I founded Steem Monsters along with Yabba P. Matt, and so the two of us have been putting together a collectible trading card drafting game, and there's been a lot of interest here, and we're trying to expand that and get a lot of community involvement into the creation of this, get a lot of external exposure. We're about to go run out and do a Kickstarter campaign that should start in about a week or 2 weeks, somewhere around there. And I don't know, we're doing the best we can to build cool new projects and applications and things to kind of backdoor people in here. They might not know much about crypto, but they want to play a game. So come play a game, and come for the game and stay for the life-changing crypto experience. So that's a quick introduction. Hopefully that gives you guys a sense of what's going on here. Let's talk some about what you think is going well on the blockchain. I guess my handful of questions, which again, you guys are welcome to ignore these, and just when it's your turn, just answer whatever you'd like. But I think my question is, what's sort of going well? on the blockchain. Maybe I'll follow up with what's not going so well, and then maybe more specifically what we're working on. And then my last question will be something like, 6 months from now, all of these changes are implemented. What do you think that we ought to be planning for as a community? What should we be doing? So, Dracos, you want to tell us some stuff that you think is going well on the Steem blockchain right now?
Yeah, my recent experience with managing an RPC node is app-based. App-based has allowed it to reduce the demand of RAM for a server. So it's been a considerable step forward for the blockchain to have at least the account history plugin dumped into a database,
So-
RocksDB.
What was the RAM requirement beforehand, and what is the RAM requirement now? And what does that mean financially for people that have to run RPC nodes?
Okay, to be more precise, it would be accurate to say memory requirement. For a full node, it requires over 512 gigabytes of memory to run an RPC node, which makes it a very expensive enterprise. It's like $900, $700 to $900 per month for a public RPC node. And that happens because all the blockchain data is stored in a database in memory to allow faster access to that data. And as the blockchain and the Steem grows, so does the memory requirement to run such servers. And what Steemit came up with is to, they borrowed the RocksDB, which is an invention of Facebook, actually. They made it public, and Steemit implemented that into app-based, which will be dumping the plugins like account history, follower plugins, and etc. into the database, and it allows a fast disk access to those data. And by doing that, at least for now, the only plugin that is enabled for RocksDB is the account history, which is one of the biggest plugins. It allowed slashing in half the memory requirements. So instead of running with 512 plus memory, you can run a public RPC with around 225, 230 gigabytes of memory.
So I remember some guy talking about this. He was saying that we were going up by almost 1 gigabyte a day there for a while.
Well, as the blockchain, as the Steem ecosystem grows, it's going to be exponential. I mean, the more users, the more interactions with the blockchain, the more that scalability, as Andrarki mentioned earlier. Growth means scalability problems, and it's a step forward having app-based on our side. And as far as I know, ultimately they're gonna put all the other plugins into RocksDB, so it will further reduce the requirement for the memory requirements.
What are you seeing for a memory requirement increase on the daily now? Do you have any evidence or thoughts on that?
Actually, it's been quite slower than before. If I look at my witness servers, running with app-based reduces the memory by around 5 to 6 gigabytes, which is great. That's like 10%, over 10% improvement. In the past, when we had busy periods, it was growing by around 3 gigabytes per month for memory usage. Now it's a bit much less than that. I don't have the figures on the top of my head, but it's much slower than before, and because we have less activity than before too. The big spike in activity was in between January and March of this year. We had a busy period. Now everything seems slower. The crypto market is slower. People are less motivated to post, and all these things combined together reduce the strain on the blockchain.
All right. So that is, to me, that is very happy news. Look, those things are expensive. I pay for half of them. Yeah, it was block log growth. I don't know if it was block log. It was the memory usage. Some guy 123 was reporting for how much memory, and in his case in particular at the time, he was describing how much RAM usage it was requiring. Yeah, that was memory usage growth. That was that he was witnessing. It was about a gig per day, and Dracos is saying we are using roughly half of what we were using before, and then the growth is down considerably, and that to me is fantastic news, because that actually really that was getting a little nerve-wracking that even the 512 gigabyte servers wouldn't be enough to go support running full RPC nodes. Dracos, do you think you could run one on a 256? Could you run a full RPC on a 256 gig? I know.
Yes, actually, I'm managing the Minnow support project's RPC now, and yes, I switched it to app-based, the latest version of the blockchain code, and it's right now it's running around 230 gigabytes of RAM, and the rest is in the RocksDB database.
How much longer do you think that'll survive before it's not big enough RAM to hold that much blockchain?
Oh, this could run for at least several months. Also, I mentioned earlier that Steem hopefully will put all the other plugins into app-based, and it's gonna be a further improvement, so it will reduce memory requirements if everything goes as planned.
All right. Well, that is some great news. Thank you, Dracos. Carl, do you want to share a little bit of some things that you're positive about for the Steem blockchain? What do you think is going well here?
You know, we're still kind of in the early adopter phase, and one of the cool things about that is the group of people that comes in a early adopter phase of a really kind of broad social experiment like this is a really interesting group of people. This isn't just your average Facebook users, and I'm constantly blown away with just kind of the general quality and caliber of the people that I run into here and the creative minds, and I am very, very grateful that I kind of stumbled into this more or less on accident as I was researching various cryptocurrencies and, you know, first started looking into Steem it and was like, well, shoot, I blog and create content already, I might as well join. And what's interesting to me, though, is, you know, as we move away from this kind of early adopter phase, is how is this all going to change? How is the complexion of this place going to change? But right now, I mean, I've been having the time of my life interacting with people here, and I'm really grateful for the community and the friendships that I've made here, and think that it's really a pretty awesome thing to be a part of from the beginning.
Tim, we'll see how your audio in the boonies holds up. What are you happy about, or what do you think is progressing well?
Sure. So I think just in general, a lot of things are coming together right now, and a lot of things seem to be falling into place. You know, Steem Monsters is getting a lot of attention, and people are really excited about it. I don't know how many people saw it, but Roland P., one of the other top witnesses who isn't here today, he just posted earlier that he released a Steem Wallet mobile app, which is pretty awesome. And I think Steem Incorporated has really been pulling their act together. I've been very impressed. You know, I think historically the complaints from the community towards Steemit, just as far as lack of communication, not delivering things on time, lots of other stuff, has been one of the main things dragging us down. And that's not to say that there still aren't some issues that need to be addressed, but I definitely think that, you know, from what I've seen in the past couple of months, they definitely seem to be picking up their game and heading in the right direction. So I'm very impressed with that. As far as on the downside, I'd probably say more outside the sphere of the Steem community, just in general, the overall lack of enthusiasm right now for the cryptocurrency market, I think, is hurting us. You know, since Bitcoin dropped from its all-time high, I think we're kind of, as a larger cryptocurrency community, struggling to kind of, you know, come up with our new message of why we're heading back to the top. And I also think that outside of the Steem community, there's kind of a lack of attention on our project. I actually really think we should be in the top 20, if not the top 10. which is part of why I'm working on a campaign right now to try to get the message out to the wider community about what's going on in Steem.
So that brings us a bit to the second question, which is going to be what isn't going well. And so some of that, it seems like you're going to describe the reputation of this company or this blockchain outside of our own community. Like a lot of us are pretty high on this. There are some people that are frustrated or still have a lot of negative things to say. What do you think in particular is sort of leading the charge of us not being super well received either by, in both of those two cases? So the one being, how come cryptocurrencies aren't going even faster than they are in terms of getting adopted and seeing people using them? And then specifically, what's the issue with Steem? Why are we having such a hard time getting Steem to be well loved outside of the Steem community?
Well, the larger one is kind of a tough question. I don't know if anyone really knows the answer to that, but I think the lack of certainty around regulation is definitely holding a lot of people back. I think, you know, the fact that we pulled significantly back from a really high peak kind of has everybody a little bit gun shy. You know, whenever we're going down, it's not a very exciting time to be jumping in. And I think a lot of the social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, etc., that have been kind of pulling back on letting people promote their cryptocurrency communities has taken a lot of the fuel out of some of the excitement that gets generated, you know, and it seems like everybody's talking about it. As far as Steem, in my opinion, it probably boils down to two things. One is that there are still some real issues that we as a platform and community have to address that haven't been addressed yet. And some investors are taking a look at those issues and kind of looking at it from the perspective that if those aren't solved, they're not ready. But I think that that's a showstopper because I feel like a smart investor can look past the issues that are here today and speculate on, you know, what is this platform going to look like in 6 months or a year. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's very positive in my view. And so I think a larger problem that we face is actually just a lack of information out there. I feel that a lot of people judge the Steem project very early on based on some of the things that they didn't like, and they really haven't taken a second look at the project. I have a feeling that very few people know how much the communication from Steem Incorporated is improved. I mentioned before there's actually still investors that think that we have 100% pure inflation, and we fixed that like almost probably more than a year ago with Hard Fork 16. And so a large part of it, I think, is we just need to bring the wider cryptocurrency community to focus back on our project and look at all the amazing things that we've done in the past few years.
So what do you think that takes? You know, so I was going to use the word open house. LL Farms beat me to it. Like, how do we do a virtual open house? Although to answer that, I might even answer my own question. I was thinking maybe even next week I was going to go host like a dApps of Steem witness panel, or like take this time slot and just do dApps of Steem and sort of showcase what we're doing. But again, like, you know, I don't know how to market Steem things well outside of the Steem community. You know, like I don't have like a 8 million person Twitter account or Instagram account that I can suddenly reach out to, you know, 1 billion people all at once. Like, how do you see us being able to go take the celebrations and take the accomplishments and somehow figure out how to get it past our own little echo chamber?
There's going to be state on Monday. That'd be a plan so we're going to be planning in about a week. It's going to include a lot of things like everyone going to their Facebook and you know, just writing a quick blurb telling their friends about Steem, people going to Twitter, people going on Medium, people going on Reddit. We're going to try to see if there's any cryptocurrency news outlets that want to let us write an article, and lots of other things. So I'm going to have a big post with lots of ideas, and we're going to try to have a day where everyone kind of focuses on getting the word out and do whatever they can to try to, you know, get everyone talking about Steem in the wider community.
Okay. So that's the 3 witnesses that are here. I guess I'll go try to answer what I think is going well. I mean, I really like Andrarchy's answer of the community, and you know, as we keep building these different apps and dApps, I keep thinking about, like, you know, when I built Steem Monsters with Yaba, like, we wanted to go accept other cryptocurrencies. All right, well, we didn't have to build something for that. We just took some API from block trades, slapped it into the site, and now we could accept other currencies. Like, there's something about how you keep getting a larger and larger critical mass that helps you keep going. So as we keep getting these new apps and dApps, it actually does quite a bit for the rest of the ecosystem, because now there's more of these tools. I mean, if I had to go start back on like a brand new chain to try to build Steem Monsters, I wouldn't know how to get an audience there. I wouldn't know how to get some of the tools that we started with initially. I wouldn't know how to do like token distribution. We just solved a lot by having things already here on this blockchain. So those are some of the things that I think are going really well. What isn't going well, I guess I'm sticking with my answer that I've had since I've been here. I'm not a super big fan of the distribution that's on the Steem blockchain. I think that has been skewing quite a number of things. And I think Tim's right that, you know, we really ought to be in a higher position than we are. The technology is here. We have a lot of users. But somehow the investors are sort of skipping over us when they come think of this. And you get guys like Tone Vase that are out there, and other Bitcoin maximalists that, you know, if it's not proof of work, it sucks, and you can't trust it, and we hate it. But, you know, this place is pretty fast. It's pretty, it's a freemium chain. And I think there's a lot of good things going for it. But we certainly have a lot of work to do outside of this community, and frankly even inside of this community, for some of our angsty members, to try to convince people that this is a good place to be, a good place to build. So those are some of those thoughts. We've talked a little bit about this, but you know, do you guys want to talk, in case you missed an opportunity, or if you have anything more you'd like to add? Just sort of some of the stuff that you're working on, or some of the stuff that you're building, so that people can hear, like, about your projects and what's important to you and what you're working on. Dracos, do you want to share? Do you feel like you hit it already?
Actually, I was working on a personal project, an equivalent to SBDS, which takes the blockchain data and puts it into a MySQL database. And during the process, I stumbled upon a couple of bugs that I reported, and that made me think, because that was with AppBase. I was testing AppBase, dumping the blockchain to MySQL, and that made me think, I mean, are we ready to move that fast with the hard fork 20 and SMTs? And it made me realize that I think the time is really compressed. I mean, it's good to have a timetable and timetable for what's coming up, and it's good to have the testnet launching, but I think the period for testing these things is way too short. And if you look at the GitHub repos, you have Steem that has around 340 issues. Condenser has 370 something issues. Steem JavaScript is 90. The faucet has around 60. So you combine all these bugs, and you have combined with the other projects too, and you have around 900 to 1,000 issues that are still not being solved, or in the process of being solved, but it takes time. One of the bugs that I submitted was like 2 weeks ago, and it took 2 weeks to have it fixed. So imagine when you have 1,000 bugs with the current state of things, how long will it take to fix them? And while they're working on fixing them, they're trying to release hard fork 20. And once hard fork 20 is released, we're going to have another set of bugs piling up on this, adding to the pile. And a few months later, in March 2019, the projected launch date of SMTs, does that give us enough time to test all these systems and to fix all the bugs? And even when SMT launches, whether it's in March or later, it's going to bring more bugs to the system. So the system is growing, but it's getting more complex. And with the higher complexity of a system, it increases its chances of failure. It's more prone to failure when you have so many complex systems interacting together, and you try to fix one bug and something else comes up elsewhere. So that's my concern about the timetable.
All right, that seems like a fair concern. You know, when these projects go, you kind of have phases of growth, and then you have phases of dealing with your growth. So I'm interested to see how Steemit's going to go forward and go backwards and handle some of the bugs or the issues that have come up along the way in their programming and in their other advances.
And I also would like to add that maybe it's one of the factors that may refrain investors from investing is when they look at the project, the fundamentals of the project, and they see all these bugs and condenser, the interface is still archaic compared to other websites. I mean, when they evaluate all these things, if I had $1 million, would I invest in Steem? You know, I mean, something you should ask yourself: if you had $1 million, would you invest in Steem as it is right now? So, something to think about.
Carl, is there anything else you'd like to add about some of the projects that you're working on, or some of the things that are being released, or changes of the Curie team?
Sure, thanks. Again, this is Carl G. Nash for the Curation Organization and Community Witness. I mentioned the last few times that I was on here that Curie had moved to a new backend for our own curation operations, and it's been up as a website that you can visit and see the curation activity. It's becquerel.io, and that has actually now been released on GitHub. I believe there's a couple recent changes that haven't been pushed through to that, but let me just paste the GitHub repo on. I made a post about this yet. So this is another Agrode witness, exclusive scoop here. But what I just posted up there is a GitHub repo for becquerel.io, and what this is a platform that any curation group could use, and you could start off, since it's on GitHub, this is open source, you could take what we've done and build on it, and essentially it allows multiple levels, so you can have people who have permission to submit posts for review, and you have people that have permission to see the posts, and you can obviously it could be the same people have the same permissions, or you can divvy that up, and then there's admin roles that allow you to assign the roles and whatnot. And this is all using Steem Connect to verify that when a post is submitted to this, it's submitted by the actual user. It's actually associated with a particular user on the blockchain. So that's something that we've been working on and will continue to work on. We've also developed a search tool, steamlookup.com, and that allows you to search by multiple tags and different ways of filtering out content. And we're going to be doing continued development on that in the next couple months. It was kind of set on the shelf for the last few months as we were working on becquerel, but we're going to be diving on that going forward.
Is that something? Is a search function that you have been working on and will work on? Is that something that can be integrated into Condenser? Or is that I'm waiting for the dream is when somebody is like, you know what, finding posts on Steemit is not fantastic. Let's go make it so everybody can find these things more easily.
Yeah, what Steem Lookup does is actually relies on, we have our own basically database that stores the posts and searches for it. So it's not direct, that obviously is pulling from the blockchain to build that database, but the searching, our own database there, not directly connecting to the blockchain for every search. When the new changes come about with Hivemind to where you can actually, query some of these things without more efficiently. When these changes come out, we're going to be looking at retooling it so that we can hopefully directly query, and rather than having to rely on it being our own database. And at that point, then it could be directly connected so that as you're searching and whatnot, you can also interact with the posts and comment on them and whatnot directly from the search tool. It's not quite there yet. Right now, currently, if you find a post using the search tool and you click through to it, you'll be clicking through to one of the various front ends for Steem.
Okay. Those are some nice changes. What's the final vision for that? I mean, I know that you're talking about here's some features and some interfaces. What is the problem that you guys are trying to solve, and how do you think other groups that aren't just Curie could use your tools to solve them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the end vision here is to integrate these two things together so that we'll have both a very functional search tool that is actually, an actual advanced search tool for Steem Blockchain, which doesn't actually exist out there, and it's hard to believe really that we're several years into this project and nobody has really tackled an actual functional search, but it's the truth. Nobody has actually tackled a functional search. I think SteemLookup.com currently is the closest thing to it, but it certainly has got a long ways to go. But our goal is to integrate that with Becurals and have that all out there as a platform that as an open source platform that any organization who's into curation on the Steem blockchain can use as an example, build off of it, and be able to both search for posts and submit them for review within your group and review them and cast the upvote on them. Do it all from this platform, and we think that this is actually meeting a need that's a real need, and that there aren't really a lot of tools out there to help curators. And so on the roadmap, we would like to connect to some APIs so that directly from the search tool you can have reverse image search to make sure that the images aren't plagiarized, to connect to an API that does a quick plagiarism check and a grammar check. So those are all on the development roadmap, and we're going to try to work this up to be the most advanced curation and search tool that's out there for the Steem blockchain. And part of that is for selfish reasons, because every member of Curie spends an inordinate amount of time looking for posts and searching for posts on the Steem blockchain. I personally use Archange's Steem SQL database and write my own custom search queries and have done it that way. But I know that not everybody can do that, and so providing a tool that will allow people to actually look for the posts that they want to find, and that will allow any organization that wants to have multiple curators working for it but doesn't necessarily want to share a posting key so that everybody can vote from the group account. I think that there's going to be a lot of demand for these tools that we're working on, and we're excited to continue development as we're going forward and bring them to you guys all to use, not just for Curie.
Sounds pretty awesome. All right, Tim. So, do you want to give us more details, or are you working on the Steem Blast? Are there other things you want to share that you're working on, or do you want to share more details about that?
Yeah. So Steem is my main focus right now. A couple times already in the show, but basically, we're gonna specific date, and I'll publicly announce that date right now. It's actually going to be Monday, September 3rd. So on Monday, September 3rd, basically we're going to try to organize the entire community to go out and start talking about Steem any way and wherever they can. And so this upcoming Monday, which is going to be the 27th of August, just in a couple days here, I'm going to create a post that basically has a lot of information. So basically, that post that I'm going to do this upcoming Monday is going to talk about how we're all going to organize for the following Monday to get out there and start talking about Steem.
Well, that's handy. We are going to go do our Kickstarter starting the following day for Steem Monsters. So we're going to try to get Steem out at roughly that same time, very much with the idea of going out to the normies. What would you want people to do? Is it just as simple as, you want them to just tweet out, "Hey, I work or I make posts on Steem," and like, do you have a central message for this? Is it just
Yeah, so it is going to be investment oriented compared to user oriented. Obviously, there's some overlap there, but we are. Sorry, what?
nothing? Keep going. Oh, Tim cut out a bit. It's going to be investor oriented. You might have to type that in later, Tim. All right, so it sounds like we have a date for the Steam Blast, which is going to be not this Monday but the next, and so it sounded a little bit like the message there was going to be geared towards investors. So hopefully, as people are posting, we're posting something not just on Steam but on other social media channels. Reasons why people should take a second look at the Steem ecosystem here. All right, we have maybe 18 minutes left or so. I guess I can talk a little bit about Steem Monsters and what we're doing there. And actually, I've had a little bit of a dream of getting Steem Studios off the ground for a while, and now I actually have everything I need sort of behind the wall behind me to go be able to do that. So I have some inkling of I'd like to try to get sort of like daily news briefs going that present some of the controversial news of our time without Alex Jonesing it, where the globalist term my sperm gay. And, I don't want any of those things. I just want it to be sort of like, here are today's events and let's go talk about them and present some news and alternatives without the sort of like weird fear porn that he always tosses in. Another thing that I'd like to go do, Steem Monsters, we're progressing there. I wanted to try to get some of our next major things out there. I don't think it's going to be this time, but you're certainly going to want to follow the Steem Monsters blog. We're going to have some, I think we're going to have some changes that we put out here in the next couple of weeks that will actually change the blockchain as a whole. We have a program coming that's an extension, like a Google Chrome extension that should have some pretty big impact. And then on top of that, we're going to have some new features that will be available to everybody on the blockchain. So that's a little bit cryptic. Sorry about that, but it's still a little bit top secret for now. But you're going to want to pay attention to what Steem Monsters is doing, because we have, I would consider, two very large changes that are not Steem Monsters centric, but it's the ABBA and I that are doing them, and they're going to make a big splash. So I really like the question of all right, especially now that we have kind of these deadlines in place, even if they are a little fast, as Dracos might have mentioned, we have the testnet up, we have velocity that's supposed to hit in exactly 1 month from now. We have a firm date for the launch for SMTs, and that's going to be up there in March. So about 6 months from now, the whole, really all the top 20 witnesses have been aligned for a while of these are the top priorities and top changes that we want. And then after that, I'm not sure that there's so much agreement or even all that much discussion. So I really like the question of, get your crystal ball, start thinking about 6 months from now, and what is it that you think that we're going to need to be worried about, thinking about, and doing to help this place grow, and maybe not grow, but just like, how do we maximize the value of what we have, or what's going to be the next limiting reagent for us? Dracos, do you want to take a first shot at that?
I think that once everything, all the bugs are fixed, the rest will follow. Because once you have a stable and enjoyable platform, investors will flock in, users will flock in, and everybody's going to enjoy Steem even more. But until then, with all the bugs, the current bugs, it's kind of a bad experience. So I really hope that Steem had mentioned in one of their last communications that they hired more people, which is a very good thing. And I think they will even need more people with the launch of SMTs and Hard Fork 20 to keep on working on these bugs. And let's hope for the best. So yeah, I'm still optimistic, and I'm very bullish on Steem for the long run.
Alrighty. Carl, do you want to put on your, or I guess put on your wizard's hat and take out your crystal ball and tell us what you think we ought to be thinking about maybe 6 months from now? Like what are the challenges that are going to present themselves, and how can we as a community try to get ready for that?
Sure. So, I don't know if you know this, I'm a dungeon master, so when you tell me to put on my wizard hat, this is very appropriate. I play Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game, and I spend a lot of my time fantasizing about magic and wizards and whatnot. So this is right up my alley. I think what we're going to have to see once all these changes come out is a better mesh between the expectation that people have when they're onboarded and the reality. And currently the marketing is still focused on, post content, get paid. This is the place where you can come to get paid for your content. And I feel like when people talk about the churn that we have and the lack of retention of users, that is almost all because of a poor mesh between the expectation that the marketing is making and the reality of what when they hit the ground of what's actually going on here. And what I'm excited about is communities and HiveMind allowing there to be more kind of interest specific communities that we can onboard people into, and basically taking people with a more targeted message so that when they come on, they're not just being told, oh, this is like an amazing blogging platform that you show up here and everybody's going to get paid, because the reality of the fact is currently there are more, a higher percentage of users can make money now than in the future. It's already a small percentage now, but as the user base grows and grows, it's going to just be a smaller and smaller percentage of people that can actually make money. So the marketing can't just continue to be, hey, come to Steem and you're going to get paid, because for the majority of users, that's not really going to be the case, and that's fine. Only a tiny percentage of YouTube users actually, make a bunch of money there. But YouTube isn't advertising people come here and get paid, right? They've figured out a way to advertise it that isn't about getting paid, and some small percentage of people do get paid, but that's not the point. And I think we have to get to there to where we readjust the marketing message and make it more specific to people so that they're expecting to come on and have a good experience, and they know what that experience is going to be, and they show up here and they have that experience, and then that'll solve a lot of these issues of churn that we're having. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the new apps that come out once HiveMind comes out. HiveMind makes it a lot easier for developers, since you can code in Python now to extend the capabilities. And I'm also really excited to see the communities and to see what communities spring up and how communities onboard people. And I feel like once people are being onboarded directly into communities, that's really going to make a huge difference. So I guess that's what my wizard cap is telling me, and that's what I'm excited about.
I had some pretty good questions for you, and then I started seeing memes in audience chat, and they all went out the window. So I feel a little hobbled there. All right, so let's see. Tim, do you want to put on your wizard cap? Do you want to try to tell us what you think we're going to run into 6 months from now, if your internet will hold up for that?
Yeah, hopefully it'll hold up. I think 6 months from now is probably going to be a very exciting time. I'm hoping that by then we've obviously got Hard Fork 20 behind us, and sounds like smart media tokens, and hopefully communities as well. So I think once those things are done, a lot of the underlying framework to make the blockchain successful is going to be laid, and then it really becomes an opportunity for the entrepreneurs who are building apps like Steem Monsters to start really utilizing the stuff that's there and hopefully taking us to the next level.
Actually, so Carl, Tim reminded me just through saying smart media tokens. Do you think that smart media tokens are going to be the silver bullet to solving all the challenges and problems that we have with curation? Do we need to totally revamp the curation system and do what we did for? Do we need to redo what we did for the resource credits? Sort of like an overhaul of bandwidth. Do we need to do an overhaul of curation? Or do you think that, the various SMTs that exist in the world out there will will have enough oomph that they'll be able to sort of tailor curation and tailor rewards and have that function that everybody's looking for from like curation and Steem, but now it's going to go through the various SMTs instead.
Yeah, so, I mean, first off, do I think SMTs are going to be the magic bullet to fix everything? They could well be, and this is, I'm going to come back to the curation aspect, but what I'm most excited about SMTs is that currently a large holder of Steem power doesn't really have much incentive. Like the current incentive is to delegate your Steem power out to a vote seller because it's far and away the highest return on your investment. And I'm not even going to go into the discussion of whether or not that's good or bad. That's just an observation of fact that is the highest ROI that you can get. And what we're hoping to come to, or what I'm hoping to come to, is a place where there's more demand for Steem power to power SMTs than there is to sell it to vote sellers. And I think once we get to that magic tipping point, that is really when everything is going to take off. And when more and more Steem power is being vested just into powering the transactions of an SMT, that actually then makes everybody's vote who's actually voting with, on the regular Steem blockchain and not on SMTs, that makes everybody else's vote more valuable because more and more of the total Steem power is going to be vested and not being used to vote. So that to me is really exciting, and I think it's something that we've been needing as some alternative source of demand for Steem power, and for an investor to have an alternative market to gain ROI from their investment besides just vote selling. And again, I'm not making a judgment on the relative merits of vote selling in and of itself. Just saying what I'm excited about. The potential of SMTs is as an alternative. So now, as far as curation, I do think that there's a chance that individual SMTs can make a curation mechanic or reward system that is that actually works to incentivize good content. And I think part of the problem on the overall blockchain level is that it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to define what good content is and to make an incentive system reward that. Currently the incentive is vote what you think is going to make the most money, and that isn't necessarily have anything to do with good content, right? So, but why I'm excited about this is if you've got a community that's focused on art or a community that's focused on photography, it becomes easier to make actual objective actual objective ways to judge content. And I could foresee, this is just kind of talking off the top of my head here, but I could see a community of photographers that if you're onboarded into this community and you're posting there and you're looking at all this content through this community's front end, whether that's their own website or whatever that is, an app, you could have something like a group of users who have been elected, who basically get to judge whether or not these are good photographs by a number of set criteria. They could judge it on composition, on all these different things. And then how well regular users' vote matches up to that could determine how much of this token they get back. This is just super rough idea, but basically you can, in any particular instance, it's easier to make up a definition of what is a quality photograph than it is to make up a definition for what's quality content writ large. So I do think there is some chance that for each community that comes out and is onboarding people and is focused on a particular thing, there is a chance that an SMT released by that community can solve the curation problem for that particular space. Maybe not for the blockchain writ large, but they don't have to solve it for the blockchain writ large. And I don't know if there is a solution for the blockchain writ large to really be able to incentivize good content, because once you leave any particular space, I don't know that there is a universal definition that's actually useful. So I don't know if that 100% answers your question, but that's where my thoughts are on that space.
Yeah, I've had that thought for a while of high quality content is extremely subjective. All right, so we're down to the last 5 minutes, and then we have another show that's going to come on right after this. I'd like everybody to just sort of give us some last thoughts, give us some what would you like us to leave here today thinking about? What do you think think's important? It could just be as much as goodbye and thanks, or maybe there's something you want to leave people with. Dracos? Dracos. Can I get a fake news emoji in chat, please? All right, let's go on. I guess Carl. Carl, you get to go sign us off here. What do you want people to leave here thinking about or leave here with?
Okay, you know, I'll just circle back to that Curie. The main thing that we're trying to do is to help incentivize content creators and help reward content creators without really asking for, you know, a paid for vote. And I feel like basically manual curation is still important on the blockchain, and I don't really anticipate that changing. I understand that there's a lot of social dynamics that come along with earning a reward here, and that really, for the most part, how well connected you are and the friends that you make have more to do with your earning potential than anything else. But that being said, I think that there being groups like Curie and like other groups out there on the blockchain that do manual curation is still really important, so that a user still feels like they've got some chance, if they're not already connected, not already, you know, really friends with the whale, that you do still have some chance of earning a big upvote, and when you don't have to pay for it or jump through these hoops. I feel like that's important, just knowing that that's out there. And really, every big upvote that Curie or any other organization like this gives out that isn't paid for is an advertisement for Steem that travels outside of the Steem ecosystem. I know when I first received my first big Curie upvote, I literally ran screaming out of the bathroom with my phone in my hand, yelling at my wife, you know, my post is at $150, and she couldn't understand it. And I'm telling friends and family, you know, hey, what are you doing on Facebook? I just made this crazy post and it's over $100. And so this kind of organic advertising, you really can't buy it. You could spend $1 million on an advertising campaign, or multiple millions, that is spread all over Facebook or YouTube or wherever, and it's still not as valuable as actually hearing from somebody who is telling you straight up, I didn't get paid for this, I just went on there and I made a post and I earned a bunch of money. So I think that adds a lot of value to Steem Blockchain, and I think Curie is you know, an important component of the blockchain because of that.
All right, well, apparently our sound got cut off, and this is going to be the end of the show. So that's all right. It's about the right time anyways. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming here. You're all lovely people. This has been a great audience, a great panel. Thank you to Anjarki from Steem It. Thank you to the witnesses that have joined us. I'm Agrode. I'm your host for today. This is the you've been in the Minnow Support Project, listening to Msp Waves. And I guess the last thing I'd mention is that Steem Monsters is going to be doing some really awesome things. We just had a great week where we had one day where we sold $9,000 worth of cards. We recently had a $10,000 market day. We're growing and we're expanding, and I'm really excited about it. So you can grow a business here on the Steem blockchain, and we're going to help show people that it's possible. So up next, we're going to have Making Stuff come on, and he's going to have a great show shortly hereafter. So please stick around, and I'm just totally excited and really stoked for the Steem blockchain and where we're heading. Should be awesome. All right, folks, you've been listening to the Steem Witness Forum. Thank you to all that joined, and looking forward to working with you soon. Bye, guys.